Hey YouTube, Sig220 Euro. It's August 3rd. I'm kind of behind for my update this week, but my corn's doing good. You can see it's already going to tassel. It's starting to grow some ears on here, I'm glad to see. Pretty small yet. Haven't got much rain lately, but just to give you an idea, those tassels, I'm 6'2", and they're over my head, so some of those are 6.5, 7 foot already. So doing well. The beans, they're in there. I'm looking, they're just starting to get some little flowers on some of them. I'm not really seeing much in the way of my squash that I had in there, so I don't know if they've died out or what. They're 7-8 inches high. They're not real big, not doing real great, but they're there with the tower. It's really starting to grow over. I wish I would have went higher, I guess, but this grow bag, as you can see here, they're starting to die back, so I'm gonna assume that maybe that's the end of those potatoes, and I might let them go for another week or more. Oh no, that's interesting. I've never seen that. Huh, it's off the potatoes. Almost looks like a little tomato looking deal. That's interesting. If you know what that is, I'd be interested to know. I mean, is that some kind of a seed, I'm assuming? If anybody happens to know, please comment. Interested to know what those are. If that's something I can save for seeds for next year, or all I ever heard of using was the potato itself. So it'd be interesting. But anyways, you can see that one's just dying off quite a bit. So I might cut that off next weekend, or I might just leave it go. Next weekend, I'm actually leaving for about a week. Going with some friends. We're taking a motorcycle trip up through the Adirondack Mountains and doing some camping. So this one also was doing really good up until just the last maybe week or so. You can see it's starting to kind of splay out, and some of the leaves are starting to look dead. Well, here are my tomatoes. You can see I got quite a few coming on. These San Marzano, damn birds. I had this last night. I had to pick 3 tomatoes where I think I've got some birds that are coming in and pecking the sides out of them. I had one for lunch I cut the damage out of it, and nice flavor to it, but still a little bit underripe. But the birds haven't messed with anything out here. But now, as the tomatoes are starting to turn red, I see that I'm starting to have this issue. But I did work on these this weekend, went through and thinned them out. Also, Saturday, I cut out my one cauliflower. Had a fairly good sized head. I'd say maybe about 6 inches across. And being it's the first time I ever did cauliflower, I thought maybe it was done. And it had a good taste, but it's kind of hard. I think maybe it needed to go a little bit longer. You can see the cauliflower though, still looking nice. A couple of my onions have decided to perk up. This squash here is doing pretty well. You can see it's starting to flower out. My peppers are coming along nice. You can see some peppers on there. One of the plants, the boys were all excited. There was maybe about 7 or 8 little peppers budding on. So anyways, like I said, the tomatoes are doing pretty nice. Got a lot coming on. You can see the size of some of those. That one's got to be bigger than my fist. I mean, they're just kind of huge. Well, you can see there's a chunk of 2x4 down behind it, so that kind of gives you an idea of the scale. This bed, boy, I've had a lot of problems over here. We did get a couple eggplants off. Looks like I've got another one that'll be soon to come off. You'll see here that I got some, the white on here, some 7 dust. I had some kind of little black bugs that were just crawling all over this, eating the snot out of my eggplant, and put a little 7 dust on it this weekend, and no more bugs. So unfortunately, looks like my spaghetti squash isn't going to make it. As you'll see, my bed's looking a lot thinner. The powdery mildew, I did spray with the copper fungicide spray, and it did seem to help some. Some of the plants I think were just, you can see these ones have kind of rebounded, but some of the plants were just too far gone. Like the root itself was almost like turning to mush. The bugs really seemed to get into it. These ones had been holding out, but you can see this one here looks like it's giving up the ghost. I'll have to pull it out. This one, this weekend, there were still some green leaves on it, but unfortunately, it looks like I'm not going to get a spaghetti squash. So I think what I'm going to do is kind of pull those out, and in here in this little bit of open bed area that I have, I think I'm going to go and it might not be quite in the rows and things like they recommend, but I might go ahead and in between the beds try to sow in some lettuce seeds. I also might just dig out some of the wood chips and stuff and put into some cups. I wanted to try to start a couple cabbages, so I might try to put in some cabbage, get those going. My cucumbers, we've been getting cucumbers after cucumbers. You can see this one size wise, I'll have to cut that here when I'm done, but I probably pulled 5 or 6 off like that this weekend, and then some shorter ones that were getting bigger around, but they just weren't getting much longer than about 5 or 6 inches. It was kind of weird. The tips just kind of came down to like a little pinch point, but they were only maybe about that long. And see, we got more coming here. I'm not sure what other ones, like I said, went through. Oh, here's another big one I need to probably get off of here tonight. And a couple small ones down there in the ground growing. So it's kind of where we're at. I think what I'll do is this weekend before I leave, in fact I might even do it tonight, go ahead and get another mix. You can still see these leaves are just kind of dying out underneath. I don't know if it's because the roots are in such bad shape or if that fungus has gotten into the soil. Like I said, that's where we're at. Mixed results right now as far as the way things are growing and what's surviving and not surviving. So I guess time will tell. We did get quite a few zucchini. I thought we'd have a lot more. I'm hoping we'll get more. I guess just time will tell. Or let's see if whatever hit this will be the end of it for the year. Well, I was out here doing a little bit more work. Kind of pulling my cucumbers up a little bit and cut 2 of them off, and I was taking some dead leaves off of this, and my squash plant, or the spaghetti squash, I took it out. The other big hole there was another one of the zucchinis. It was all dead, so I don't remember if it was kind of laid out there. I ripped it out. There was a second zucchini. Oh, you can see it right there. It was looking fairly nice and healthy, and just as I was moving it around, there was like less than like a 1/4 inch of the vine that was connecting it, and I went to move it to kind of reorganize it, and it broke right off. So my guess is that might have been part of the reason why there was a bunch of yellow leaves there. I guess the powdery mildew fungus just hit them too hard. So now I'm down to this zucchini and one other one. Hopefully it'll survive. I do see that one's got a small one on, and this one's got a couple, this one has a few flowers, and another small one there. It looks maybe it's going to be ready to pollinate. That's the last remaining sun star squash. I think we've gotten 2 off of that. Anyways, so this bed, just because I didn't get on the ball with the mildew or figuring out what the mildew was, it's cost me a lot of my zucchini and squash. So live and learn. Like I said, this year's kind of a big experiment for us, so chalk this one up to know better next time. Next year I might give them just a little bit more space. Also, I don't know whether I'll plant them all together like this. I might kind of scatter them out. Maybe if they're kind of separated, something like this, the disease won't sweep through all of them. You know, especially having all the different kinds of squash here. Maybe if I separated them and had spaghetti in one spot, zucchini in another, yellow squash in another, maybe that would give them a little bit more resistance. I don't know. So anyways, just a little bit more of an add-on here.